Hello friends, Brandy here with Falcon Healing Arts. Welcome back to my channel where we talk all about holistic healing. Even if you've been watching my videos for a while, what we're talking about today may come as a big surprise because I haven't even talked about this with my closest clients. They do not know that just a few years ago, I almost quit my acupuncture career. Even though it was very serious and intense, a very intense period of my life, there was a turning point, and I did fall in love with acupuncture and Chinese medicine all over again. So it was a very brief consideration, but worth talking about today because I know many of us have periods of doubt where we're wondering if we're on the right path. And if that is you, if that's what you're experiencing right now, then I'm hoping this personal story today is going to inspire you to rediscover your passions and persevere if you're on the brink of giving up something you love. So I don't want you to do that prematurely. I am so happy that I pushed through and healed aspects of myself that were really getting in the way of my enjoyment and of my success. So I want to start with just a brief, very brief introduction of how I got into acupuncture. I was working in biotech for over 8 years and entered the field while I was still getting my undergraduate degree in molecular biology. I had wanted to be a genetic counselor. I found this job that was helping me pay my way through school. And then when I graduated, it just felt comfortable that I was already making a lot of money. And for a couple of years, it was fine. I had a lot of friends, and it was paying the bills. But there came a time where I was getting really stressed out. I realized I was not enjoying my work. It meant nothing to me, absolutely nothing. I did not feel I was making a difference in the world, and it made me question why I studied biology in the first place. And really, it was a bigger spiritual question. The reason I love biology, loved and still love biology, is that it is the study of life. And again, it was a bigger spiritual question for me about the mystery of life, really wanting to sink into that. Biotech was not the answer. There were no answers at all there. And so I went to massage school. I did realize I wanted to work with people one-on-one and to help them heal in some way. So I started with massage and then yoga. I became a yoga teacher. Loved that too, but I knew it wasn't my number one focus. And then I found Chinese medicine, and this was actually through a yoga teacher. So again, not to get too deep into all of this, but it was satisfying that interest in what life was all about. I learned more about Taoism, which is the philosophy behind Chinese medicine. And so that interest is what was really motivating me, that I was getting questions answered as I was moving into a field where I was going to be helping people in a very important and intimate and holistic way. It felt really, really important. And when I made that decision to leave the biotech field, when I started acupuncture school, Chinese medicine school, many things fell into place. My relationship became more solid. I became engaged to my now husband. Things were working out really well there at home. I became manager of the yoga studio because I didn't even think about it. Was a very impulsive decision. I wasn't even thinking about how I would be making money while I went to school. So I got a position as a manager at my yoga studio. That was helping me to pay the bills. And there, I turned a corner with my yoga classes too. Those became really popular. And even that was really enjoyable too. Even though I knew that was more second, it wasn't my number one. So acupuncture was something that I found was one of my talents because there are many branches of Chinese medicine. Acupuncture was pretty easy for me, even though it was intimidating for a lot of other students. And I did recognize that it was the energetics of the acupuncture that was interesting me. Because the second branch that is most interesting to me of Chinese medicine is Qigong. So that is the energetics of Chinese medicine. So both of those together are what I was most interested in. That was my biggest focus. And my confidence in them really grew during my time in acupuncture school. Now, I was pregnant when I graduated, and that became my number one, was raising my son. When I had him, I just wanted to stay home. So it took me quite a while to build my acupuncture practice. I started with just doing house calls, so what we call an out-call service. So I had my massage table. I still have to this day, the one I'm using in my clinic is like 25 years old from when I was in massage school all those years ago. So I would be carrying that to people's houses in between my son's naps, and it was just enough to keep up my skills. There was still the interest to build a practice, but I wanted to wait until it was the appropriate time for me and my family. And so that time did come when he was in kindergarten, but it was brief. So oh no, it was a little bit before that. So I guess in nursery school is when we started. I don't know the complete timing, but I did have a brick and mortar space for a good 2 years. And it was building. It was feeling good in the beginning because it was new and exciting to have this space, but I didn't have everything figured out about how I needed to run the business in a very professional way. Because as other acupuncturists and healers know, there is the practice, there's you and helping people, and then there's being a business person, having your own business, because I will never be working for someone else ever again. I did feel when I started practicing acupuncture that I was a very natural entrepreneur. I love working for myself. I love having the time and financial freedom to make it what I wish. But again, I didn't know exactly what that was. There was a lot of confusion about that, and I wasn't fully in my power. So it was very easy for things to start bothering me, that started to shadow my practice. I would be attracting people who are very skeptical and wanted me to prove that acupuncture worked. So of course that didn't feel good, that there was someone coming in and just sitting here like this being like, I want you to show me that this works, because we do need to be open to healing to a certain degree. And there were other things I learned that are still an issue today, how challenging it is to work with insurance, that they pay very little and only for certain conditions. So it's mainly just pain conditions that they will pay for. And many people come to acupuncture for emotional reasons, or even physical reasons like fertility that are not covered typically with insurance. So there were a lot of frustrations about that. There were frustrations with how acupuncture is perceived compared to Western medicine, how there is a difference in respect. And Again, these things would not bother me if I was fully in my power. And of course, since I was still new, it was not strong. Um, and then we decided to homeschool my son. And because all these other things were starting to weigh on me, it was too easy to just let go of my brick and mortar practice. I went back to doing outcalls, and I don't regret that I was able to focus on my son more. We did need to move through this. I am still homeschooling him now that he's 14 years old. It has been a very fulfilling journey for us. But it was a little disturbing looking back how easily I was able to just brush that aside and focus on my son. That in a way, I used him as an excuse to give up. Again, I did not give up completely. I was still doing outcalls, so my practice shrunk to a degree where, I was only working with like 5 to 10 clients, which is a lot when you are homeschooling a child. It is a lot when you need to be traveling to people's places, but at least I didn't need to worry about building my practice and paying rent. I didn't have that burden over me. So just lifting that off did give me a lot of relief. But instead of moving further into why I was feeling all of that discontent, I was making it about acupuncture. So even when I was still doing outcalls during the pandemic, and then my practice shrunk even more because only a certain amount of people wanted me to come to their homes. And I'm so grateful for those who did because we became even closer during this time where a lot of people had fear. So we were moving through all of this together as we kept up their treatment plan. But I was honestly wondering if I wanted to continue doing this. Because during that time, not only were all the other things still weighing on me, how acupuncture was being perceived, the insurance stuff, and all of that, but I was starting to compare myself to other practitioners, and what I was seeing during the pandemic was really, really bothering me. That many of the practitioners didn't feel that they had any value, that they were completely willing to shut down their practice and refer people to Western medicine practitioners instead during that time. Whereas even though I was wondering if I was still on the right path, at least I was feeling more strongly about the value of acupuncture. So that did light up inside me, but then there was just all this frustration. So it was this energy that was conflicted inside of me of knowing how valuable Chinese medicine is, and yet it's not getting the respect in this critical period of time, getting the respect that it needed. So I was able, with help, I was starting to get the help from coaches. They were able to, they helped me focus on what I was doing. I also, during this time, started bringing in other modalities. This is when I went in deeper with shamanic healing, also with human design readings, and working more with energy healing. So I was all this time doing Qigong, again, which is the energetics of Chinese medicine, but started doing a high energy healing, which is different. And so I was going deeper with the spiritual dimensions of healing. And even though that was pleasurable, I was starting to compare that to Chinese medicine and coming to the same conclusion other people were about it. I am not wanting to say this, but it was feeling like too old, maybe too inferior. That is how a lot of people view traditional ancient medicine sometimes. So I can admit that now, and this was a very brief period where I was having those pretty horrible judgments. And what shifted, the big turning around point, was when I went further with the roots of Chinese medicine. It has strong shamanic roots. I took a few continuing education classes where I learned a lot more about the history, about ancient artifacts that they found that clued recent practitioners in about these ancient shamanic roots. And that became more interesting to me. So again, like the beginning, when I was starting my healing journey, having that spiritual focus, I started using that lens again with Chinese medicine. So that is what had happened. When I started practicing acupuncture in the beginning, it became very prescriptive. It was shallow. I was meeting people at where they were comfortable, really. And so recently, when I was making this turnaround about looking at Chinese medicine and acupuncture from the spiritual perspective, that I was doing it in a more, I would say, mature way. And I was focused on me and how I was enjoying looking at the practice this way, introducing people to the practice this way. That was the focus, not on how the majority of people outside of my space were perceiving acupuncture and Chinese medicine. So, it was around that time where I was reigniting this passion for it when I started seeing Alyssa Dazzett, who is a very popular coach in the Chinese medicine space. We did a 6-month intense coaching together, and she was pointing this out, like, I don't think you really love acupuncture. And I was like, no, I do love it. I do love it, but there are issues. There are definitely issues. And so she helped me work through all that. Part of the falling in love with acupuncture all over again was giving myself weekly, and sometimes even more than that, twice a week, acupuncture treatments. I also, actually, before I started working with her, I started working in this space. I started renting space again here in Belmont, California. I was completely okay with having this added pressure of rent, rent and needing to become more visible in the community. I gladly took that on, knowing that I was going to be needing to do deeper work on myself. And that's when I started working Alyssa, started doing more work with acupuncture in particular, because I was quite comfortable with all the other branches of Chinese medicine. For some reason, it was acupuncture that was, I think, discounting a little too much. You may have seen, I even did a video on here comparing acupuncture to acupressure for people to see that they're not totally missing acupuncture if they need to be doing online treatments with me. Because acupressure can work very similarly. But one of the big differences is that it is a bigger time commitment. You need to be doing it for longer. So you need to be actively stimulating the points a few times a day for many days in order to be seeing the benefit. And so I found myself promoting acupuncture more, wishing that I could work on people in person who are in the community. They could come here to my office space and I was promoting acupuncture more than the energy or shamanic healing, where I had tried to make that shift before. Here I was going back because I knew that acupuncture would be a quicker, stronger fix, and that we needed to start there, even for the people who needed deeper emotional and spiritual work. They needed that physical connection first to build trust. And so that really started to open up my heart more to what this modality brings. It also helped me heal because I think I was also very sensitive to the people who found acupuncture painful. It is rare, and it tends to happen more with people who are very tense. And I also had this experience. I'm a very sensitive person as well. And I did not like receiving acupuncture in acupuncture school. It's something I had to get used to. And once I had a lot of treatments, I was finding I wasn't as sensitive because I was clearing up what we call liver chi stagnation, which is an energy balance that makes us more tense, more sensitive, and makes us feel the needles more when they go in. So I am leaning in more to that now when people are sensitive, instead of backing up and saying, oh, well, there's something else we can do. I don't want to hurt you. Instead, I'm educating them more about this being something that needs to be healed. So even if we need to back off the acupuncture, just doing fewer points, I still want to help them move past that trepidation. And because I still feel that acupuncture, more so with massage, I like doing a little massage first, but then the acupuncture on top of that, so that they get used to it. So they let down their guard, their muscles relax, and there's not as much tension. There's not as much gripping of the needles on the insertion. So I have helped a few people really get over that hurdle who have had bad acupuncture experiences from other practitioners in the past. Because unfortunately that has happened where they weren't coached through this process, or an acupuncturist has been really forceful with their treatment. Because of course there are many styles of acupuncture, and some people, some recipients actually love strong stimulation. So there are differences between people. I tend to attract those who are really sensitive because that's who I am. Not just was, but am. So I do need to be keeping up these weekly treatments for myself so that I can remain confident in how I feel when I'm giving these treatments. So, friends, what did I learn from this experience? Many, many things. I learned that I actually needed to go deeper into what I was doing instead of just focusing on the things that felt off and uncomfortable and just not right, instead of assuming that it just wasn't the right path, or I just needed to do less of it and focus on other things that were more worthwhile. When I actually went in deeper, again, I rediscovered that passion that I had in the very beginning. This was completely different from the change that I needed to make leaving biotech, which felt like I was being kicked out. Spirit was kicking me out of the biotech field. I did not belong there. I did not have that sense when I closed my brick and mortar practice. It was really that it was becoming uncomfortable and I was unwilling to go deeper. I just redirected my focus on my son, and so I was avoiding the deeper work, which again was fine for that period of time. But that's what I learned, is that I was just, I just distracted myself from the problem. And so that is my advice to you, that if you are doing something you love and it's not working for some reason, that yes, you may want to tweak it here and there to see if there's just something you need to change about your approach that might help it work better. But chances are there's work that you may need to do on yourself, that there's something you need to acknowledge, work through, and fully heal in order to step up to another level in what you're doing. Whether we're talking about a profession, your career, like what I'm talking about here with me, whether it's this hobby that you really love or some other important part of your life. Can you go deeper with it and address the things about you that may be blocking your full experience of truly loving it? I also learned that I was focusing on other people's experiences, other people's perceptions of my work, instead of just making it my own, putting on blinders, staying in my own lane, and focusing on my own experiences with my clients and my own enjoyment in this role. Of course, that's something that I rediscovered again. But turning this back on you, I mean, that would be my advice to you as well. Are you trying to people please? Or are you trying to fit this mold that you think might be ideal with someone on social media or just someone in your world who you're trying to be like? Can you really figure out what it's like to be fully authentic with whatever it is you're diving into, and put on blinders to focus on that work? Don't let anyone else's perceptions about what you're doing cloud what you are doing. And another lesson, friend, what I'm learning right now, what I'm feeling in my practice is that this is easy. This is so easy for me to show up and sit here with someone to hear about what's going on in their lives, choosing the appropriate treatment, giving them that treatment. There is no stress anymore. There is no fear. I have complete confidence in myself. And I trust that they're going to stay for the full treatment plan if that this is something they're aligned with too. And even those people who can't commit, I don't feel like I'm losing them. Quite often, people do come back after they've taken a break, and I'm just not worried about that anymore. Again, I'm putting on blinders, and now that I'm comfortable doing that, it feels so easy. So I just come here and do my work. I try to do all my work. So all of my correspondence, answering texts and emails while I'm here. So when I go home, I can just cook dinner and be with my family and go for a walk and knit. It is a very simple life that is enjoyable. And I feel like back then, when things were more uncomfortable, I was trying to solve problems in my life. Like I was creating problems in my life to solve instead of just trusting that the work is enough. Just working with people and their issues, that is the problem solving I need to be focused on. And it's okay when it becomes easy. Because there's a point where there is both ease and enjoyment. It doesn't need to be challenging for it to be interesting. Because I think some of us get in a little bit of a cycle with that that is not good. It's something that needs to be healed when we're creating problems in our life or creating drama in order for it to be more interesting. We need to find things in our life that spark our joy and interest and help us experience more ease, relaxation, and a stress-free life. So those are the lessons, that is the advice I'm offering you based on this story. Let me know, friend, if you resonated with this. Those of you who've been watching my videos for a while, those of you who are clients, did you know this was happening? I only told maybe 2 or 3 people about what was going on during this time, but there may have been clues when you saw that I was focusing on other things besides Chinese medicine. There are still many things that I love, and so they're always going to be in my world. Shamanic healing is a big, big part of that. But I feel like Chinese medicine, and in particular acupuncture right now, is my main focus. It is my introduction that I offer to people as they come through the door. It is my number one right now. And actually, I am going to be giving myself a treatment right now. So I'm going to take you in there with me. You'll see me set up for my practice. I will fast forward it. But just to give you a window into my world, what I do every week. Let me know, friend, if this was interesting for you. I hope to be on here more often, at least doing videos every month, hopefully twice a month at this point. I am more busy in my practice though, so I have been cutting back on these YouTube videos. I hope to connect with you again soon. If you are here in Belmont, California, you're welcome to come to my space. I am still doing online healing too, so let me know if you need more support. Take care, friend.